Amina's hand trembled when she saw the watch. It wasn't just any tremor. It was the kind that comes when you realize your life can change in 5 seconds. The object glittered on the stained table of the Calabar pot, like a bomb about to explode. Encrusted diamonds reflected the dim light of the restaurant, creating tiny rainbows that danced on the walls. Amina blinked twice, but the watch was still there, abandoned. "Oluao," she whispered, looking around to see if anyone was watching. The restaurant was nearly empty, with only a few tables occupied by customers who paid her no mind. The man who had been sitting at that table had left 15 minutes ago, after humiliating her in front of everyone for spilling a few drops of stew on his white agbada. He had shouted so loudly that even the other customers stopped eating to watch the scene. "You incompetent girl, this agbada costs more than your salary for a year." He had bellowed with that deep voice that still echoed in her head. Now the man was gone, leaving behind something worth more than all the salaries of her entire life. Amina picked up the watch carefully. The weight in her hand felt surreal. It wasn't a physical weight. It was an emotional one. The precious stones were enormous. Each diamond seemed to have a life of its own, pulsing with a light that made her heart race. "Amina, what are you doing just standing there?" The voice of Mr. Godwin, the manager, cut through the silence. He approached, but when he saw what was in her hand, he stopped dead. "Wetin be this one?" "A customer forgot it," Amina replied, still mesmerized by the watch. "The ogre at table 12. Mr. Godwin moved closer, and when he saw the watch, he almost choked. "This is not a watch, my friend. This is a fortune." He took out his phone and started searching. His face changed color as he discovered the truth. "Amina," he said slowly, as if speaking to a child, "do you know how much this thing is worth?" "How much?" she asked, already feeling that the answer would change everything. "Mr. Godwin turned his phone screen towards her. The number displayed there made her legs feel weak. 20 billion naira. It was more money than she could ever imagine. "It can't be," she murmured, sitting down in a chair before her legs gave way. "It can't be true." "It is true, oh." Mr. Godwin confirmed. Patek Philippe, limited edition, studded with rare diamonds. "Chineke," Blessing whispered when she saw the watch, looking around as if they were criminals planning a heist. "Do you people realize what this means? We can be rich, truly rich." "Hold on," Amina said, trying to process everything that was happening. "This isn't ours. We have to return it." The silence that fell over the group was so heavy that even the noisy air conditioner in the restaurant seemed to stop working. Mr. Godwin, Blessing and Emeka stared at Amina as if she had just said she wanted to jump off a building. "Return it." Emeka repeated the words as if they were poison in his mouth. "Amina, you dey craze. Return 20 billion? It's his," she said, but her voice came out weak. "The man forgot it here. The man who humiliated you," Blessing reminded her, with the tone of someone planting an idea. "The man who treated you like trash in front of everyone. The one who said you were incompetent." Blessing's words hit Amina like punches to the stomach. It was true. The man had been cruel to her. He had made her feel smaller than an ant in front of the other customers. He had spoken about her as if she were nothing, as if her life wasn't even worth the price of his agbada. "Amina," Mr. Godwin said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "This is the opportunity of your life. We split it 4 ways. You'll never have to work as a waitress again. You can take proper care of your mother." The mention of her mother was like a knife to the heart. Mama had been in the hospital for 3 weeks, with a delicate condition the doctors at the general hospital couldn't quite fix. Every day, Amina watched her mother wither a little more, and every day she despaired, knowing she didn't have the money to help. "Think of your mama, Amina," Emeka insisted. "Think of what this money can do for her. The best doctors, the best hospitals. Your mother can get well." Amina looked at the watch, still in her hand. The object seemed to have taken on a life of its own. It was pure temptation. It was the solution to all her life's problems. "People," she said, her voice cracking. "This is not right." "Right?" Blessing exploded. "You want to talk about what is right? Is it right that you earn peanuts working 12 hours a day? Is it right that your mother is dying because you don't have money? Is it right for that rich man to humiliate you?" Each of Blessing's questions was like a whip to Amina's soul, because deep down, she knew her friend was right. Life had never been fair to her. "Amina," Mr. Godwin said, with the tone of someone losing patience. "Are you sure? Because there won't be a second chance. This opportunity will be gone forever." "I know," she replied, carefully putting the watch in her handbag. "But it's the right thing to do. The right thing for who? Blessing snapped. For the rich man who insulted you? For the guy who has so much money he won't even miss this? The right thing for me, Amina said, feeling tears burn her eyes. For the woman my mother raised me to be. Amina closed her eyes and tried to think straight. Her head was spinning. On one side, the chance to change her life forever, to give her mother the treatment she deserved. On the other, the voice of her conscience whispering that stealing was wrong. Look here, Blessing said, moving closer. We're not even stealing. The guy forgot it here. If we don't take it, someone else will. Honest? Amina repeated, almost laughing at the contradiction. How is keeping something that isn't ours being honest? It's more honest than letting some other customer with bad intentions take it, mister. Godwin argued. If you leave this watch here, someone will have taken it by morning. The argument made a twisted kind of sense. Everyone there needed that money. Guys, she said, opening her eyes. Don't you understand? My mother always told me that a good name is the only thing a poor person truly has. A good name no day pay hospital bills, Blessing retorted cruelly. The sentence struck Amina like a bullet to the chest. It was true. Character didn't pay bills. And at that moment, she wondered if her mother had been wrong her whole life. The proposal seemed like a middle ground. It wasn't stealing everything, just a little. But Amina knew that stealing a little was still stealing. No, she said. And the word came out with more force than she expected. I won't do it. So you're going to return it? Emeka asked in disbelief. I will. The silence that followed was heavy with disappointment. Mister. Godwin shook his head. Blessing turned her face away. Emeka walked off. But as she left the restaurant that night, with the watch worth 20 billion naira in her bag, a question hammered in her head. What if they were all right? What if she was making the biggest mistake of her life? The streets were empty when she left. Each step seemed to echo the weight she carried. It wasn't just the physical weight of the watch. It was the emotional weight of a decision. The next day, she would discover that the watch was not just an expensive object. It was a test she didn't even know she was taking. And the man who had humiliated her was not who she thought he was. The night was the longest of Amina's life. She lay awake until 5 a.m., tossing and turning on the narrow bed in the room she shared with her mother. The 20 billion naira watch was hidden inside an old sock, tucked away in a dresser drawer. But even out of sight, it seemed to pulse like a heart, reminding her of the decision she had made. Are you mad, Amina? She whispered to herself for the 100th time. Completely mad. But every time she thought about keeping the money, she saw her mother's face. Mama always said that poverty did not justify dishonesty. My daughter, she would say, we may have nothing, but our conscience must be clear when we lay our heads on the pillow. At 6 a.m., Amina finally got up, took a cold bath, dressed in her cleanest uniform, and took out the watch. In the daylight, it seemed even more valuable. The diamonds shone like stars, and the gold seemed like liquid running through her fingers. Okay, she said to the cracked mirror in the bathroom. Today, I return this thing, and that's it. But return it to whom? The man had left the restaurant without a trace. There was no credit card slip to track. He hadn't given a name. He hadn't spoken to anyone but her, and the only thing she knew was that he was rich and rude. Amina went back to the room and looked under the table where the man had sat. Maybe something had fallen. A clue. And that's when she saw it, a slightly crumpled business card, lost among the crumbs she hadn't cleaned up properly the night before. Chief Adebayo Adeleke, she read aloud. Chairman, Adeleke Holdings. Her heart raced. She had found him. She had a way to return the watch. She picked up her phone with trembling hands and dialed the number on the card. Adeleke Holdings, good morning. Misus. Obi speaking. The secretary's voice was cold and professional. Amina swallowed hard before replying. Hello, good morning. I would like to speak with Chief Adebayo Adeleke, please. May I know who is calling and what it is regarding? It's about an item he forgot yesterday at the Calabar Pot restaurant. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Misus. Obi must have been wondering if this was a scam. What kind of item? She asked suspiciously. A watch, Amina replied, trying to sound casual. A very special watch. Madame, look, every day people show up here claiming they found something of Chief's. Wallet, glasses, watch, car keys. 90% of the time, it's a 419 scam. But I'm not trying to scam anyone, Amina protested. I just want to return it. That's what they all say, Mrs. Obi replied with boredom. If you really found something, you can leave it at the reception, and we will verify it later. No, please. I need to speak with him personally. It's very important. Madam, Chief Adeleke is a very busy man. He doesn't see just anyone who calls here claiming to have found something of his. Amina felt desperation rise in her throat. If she couldn't speak to the man, what was she supposed to do with the watch? Keep it forever? Sell it? Both options felt wrong. Please, she begged, her voice weaker. Just 5 minutes. I swear it's serious. Misus. Obi sighed, on the other end. Listen, my dear, Chief is in meetings all day. But if you insist, you can come here at 3 p.m. I will give you 5 minutes, no more. And if it's a waste of time, you will be escorted out. Thank you, Amina almost shouted with relief. Thank you so much. I will be there at 3, on the dot. When she hung up, her hands were sweating. She had done it. She would be able to return the watch and clear her conscience. But she was also terrified. She would have to go to the most expensive part of the city, speak to a billionaire CEO, and explain the whole situation. At the restaurant, the reception was icy. Mister, Godwin barely looked at her. Blessing and Emeka made a point of ignoring her completely. It was as if she had betrayed everyone by choosing to do the right thing. So, you really decided to return the fortune? Mister, Godwin asked sarcastically during their lunch break. I did, Amina confirmed, trying to sound more confident than she felt. I hope you don't regret it, Blessing muttered, walking past her with a tray. Because when your mother gets worse and you have no money to help, remember you had a chance. The words were like a slap in the face. Amina spent the rest of the day thinking about them. What if Blessing was right? What if her mother needed an expensive treatment and she couldn't pay? How would she explain that she had held 20 billion naira in her hands and let it slip away because of her principles? At 2:30 p.m., she asked to leave early and took a Danfo bus to the island. The journey took an hour, and with every passing minute, she grew more nervous. She had never set foot in this area before. Glass buildings scraped the sky. Imported cars filled the streets. Well-dressed people walked with a hurried air of importance. The Adeleke Holdings building was intimidating. 40 floors of mirrored glass and steel with a marble lobby that looked like a palace. Amina felt like an ant entering a cathedral. Her simple clothes, her old handbag, her worn-out shoes, everything seemed to scream that she did not belong there. Can I help you? The security guard at the reception asked, looking her up and down with suspicion. I have an appointment with Chief Adebayo Adeleke at 3 o'clock, Amina said, trying to hide her nervousness. The man consulted a list on his computer, frowning. Name? Amina. Amina Santos. It's not on the list, he said, already motioning for her to leave. But I spoke with his secretary this morning, Mrs. Obi. She scheduled it for 3. Madame, if it is not on the list, there is no appointment. That is how it works here. Amina felt panic take over. She couldn't have come all this way for nothing. She couldn't go back home with the watch still in her bag, carrying that weight on her conscience. Please, she said, her voice desperate. Can you call her? Can you confirm? I am not lying. The guard looked at her with a mixture of pity and irritation. People like Amina showed up there every day. Desperate people trying to see the executives, persistent salespeople, creative scammers. I will call, he said, more to get rid of her than to help. But if she does not confirm, you will leave here now. Amina stood there, clutching her bag strapped tightly, feeling the weight of the watch like a stone in her stomach. Around her, executives walked in and out, speaking on their phones in English, carrying leather briefcases, not even noticing her existence. Valeria, the guard said into the phone. There is a young woman down here saying she has an appointment with Chief at 3. Amina Santos. Yes, she said she spoke with you this morning about a watch. Amina saw his face change during the conversation. The irritation gave way to surprise. I see. Yes, ma. I will send her up right away, ma. Okay, ma. He hung up and looked at Amina with a different expression, almost respectful. You can go up, ma. 40th floor. Office 401. Misus. Obi will be waiting for you by the lift. Amina could barely thank him. She entered the golden elevator, pressed the button for the 40th floor, and ascended into the city's sky. When the doors opened, an elegant woman in her 50s was waiting. Amina? She asked. I am Mrs. Obi. Come with me. They walked down a luxurious corridor with plush carpeting and expensive paintings on the walls. Mrs. Obi opened a set of double doors and gestured for Amina to enter. Chief Adeleke will be with you in a moment, she said. Please, have a seat. Amina sat in a leather armchair that cost more than a year of her salary. The office was larger than the house she lived in. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the entire city below. There was a mahogany desk the size of a dining table, and shelves filled with books that looked like they had never been opened. So, you are the waitress who found my watch. The voice came from behind her. Amina turned and saw the man standing in the doorway. It was him, the same one who had shouted at her in the restaurant, the same one who had humiliated her in front of everyone, the same one who had left without even apologizing. But now he looked different. He didn't seem arrogant or rude. He seemed curious, as if she were a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Chief," she said, rising from the armchair. "I brought your watch." She opened her bag, took the object out of the old sock, and held it out to him. Adebayo looked at the watch for a long moment before taking it. When he touched the metal, Amina saw something she didn't expect, tears in his eyes. "My God," he whispered, holding the watch as if it were a baby. "I thought I had lost it forever." "You forgot it on the table, sir," Amina explained. "Table 12. Last night." Adebayo sat down heavily in the chair behind his desk, still staring at the watch. "Do you know what this watch means to me?" "I know it's worth a lot of money," she answered honestly. "It is," he confirmed, "but its importance is not about the money." Adebayo looked up and met her gaze. "This watch was the last gift I gave to my son." The air in the room grew heavy. Amina felt her chest tighten. "My son died in a car accident 2 years ago," Adebayo continued, his voice thick with emotion. "The day before, I had given him this watch. It was his 18th birthday. He was so happy, said he would wear it every day to remember his father." Amina didn't know what to say. She just stood there, watching this powerful man cry over a memory. "After the funeral," Adebayo continued, "I took the watch back. It's the only thing I have left of him, the only physical thing that still connects us." "I'm so sorry, sir," Amina murmured. "You could have sold it," he said, wiping his eyes and looking at her. "You could have kept the money. 20 billion naira. It's more money than you will see in your entire life." "I know, sir." "So, why did you return it?" Amina thought about the question. Why did she? Because her mother had taught her to, because it was the right thing, because she couldn't live with herself knowing she had stolen? "Because it wasn't mine," she said simply. Adebayo smiled, for the first time since she had met him. It wasn't the fake smile of a businessman. It was a genuine smile, full of surprise and admiration. "Did you know that I was testing you yesterday at the restaurant?" he said. "What do you mean?" "I left the watch on purpose, Amina. I wanted to see what you would do." Amina felt as if the floor had disappeared from under her feet. "A test?" she repeated, her voice thin as a thread. "You did that on purpose?" Adebayo stood up from his chair and walked to the window, still holding the watch as if it were the most precious thing in the world. "Amina, 2 years ago I lost faith in humanity. Since my son David died, all I see is greed, lies, falsehood everywhere. I see it all around me." The name of his son echoed through the room like a tolling bell. David. Amina repeated the name in her mind, trying to imagine the boy who had died so young. "David was different from me," Adebayo continued, his voice cracking. "He believed that people were inherently good. He always told me, 'Daddy, you are too suspicious. There are still honest people in the world.' I thought he was too naive." Amina remained silent, feeling that any word would be too small for his pain. "After he died," Adebayo went on, "I decided to test his theory. I started leaving expensive items in public places, just to see what would happen. Watches, wallets, jewelry. In 2 years, no one ever returned anything. No one. Until yesterday," Amina whispered. "Until yesterday," he confirmed, turning to look at her. "When a humble waitress returned a 20 billion naira watch without asking for anything in return." Amina felt tears well up in her eyes. "Why did you humiliate me like that in the restaurant? Why were you so cruel?" Adebayo bowed his head in shame. "Because I wanted to see if you would remain honest even after being treated badly. I wanted to see if your anger would make you keep the watch for revenge." He looked at her with genuine remorse. "Forgive me. I know I have no excuse for being so rude." "You are forgiven," Amina said, surprising herself. "You were in pain, sir. In pain and testing if your son was right about good people still existing in the world." Adebayo smiled for the first time with real joy. "And he was. You proved it." At that moment, the phone on his desk rang. Adebayo answered with an irritated look. "Yes, Mrs. Obi." "What? Now? Okay. Send him up." He hung up and looked at Amina. "Amina, I need to tell you something. There is a specific reason why I have been conducting these honesty tests." "What reason?" "I am looking for someone," he said slowly. "Someone special. Someone with unshakable character." Before Amina could ask anything else, the door opened, and a man in a suit carrying a leather briefcase entered. "Chief," the man said, "I brought the documents you requested." "Thank you, Barrister Tunde. You can leave them on the table." Tunde placed the briefcase on the desk and left without looking at Amina. Adebayo took some papers from the briefcase and approached her. Amina, what I am about to tell you will change your life forever, he said, his tone becoming solemn. But first, I need to know, is your mother really sick? The question hit Amina like a punch to the gut. How do you know about my mother? I had you investigated last night. I'm sorry for the invasion of privacy, but I needed to know who I was dealing with. Amina stood up from the armchair, startled. You investigated me? I know you work 2 jobs to pay for your mother's medical care. I know she has a delicate heart condition and needs a surgery that costs 15 million naira. I know you are desperate because your HMO won't cover the procedure. Each word was like a stab to Amina's heart. How did this man know so much about her life? I also know, Adebayo continued, that you could have sold my watch and solved all your family's problems, but you chose to do the right thing, even knowing your mother could die if you didn't get the money. Amina broke down in tears. It was true. All of it. Her mother was getting worse by the day, and she didn't have the money for the surgery. She had chosen honesty, knowing she might be condemning her mother to death. Why are you telling me this? She asked through her tears. Because I want to make you a proposal that will change everything in your life, Adebayo said, moving closer to her. Amina, I have no more family. I have no heirs. I have no one I can trust to carry on my legacy. What legacy? Do you know what my net worth is? Amina shook her head. 500 billion naira. The number was so absurd that Amina couldn't even process it. 500 billion? That's impossible. No one has that much money. 500 billion, Adebayo repeated, seeing the disbelief on her face. And I need someone to inherit all of it. Someone with character. Someone who will not be corrupted by money. You are offering. I am offering for you to become my sole heir, Adebayo said, each word weighing a ton. 500 billion naira, 50 companies, 100 properties, everything. Amina had to lean on the desk to keep from fainting. This is madness. It's justice, Adebayo corrected. You passed the hardest test there is. Choosing right when wrong would have been easier. But I don't deserve this, she protested. I'm just a waitress. I have no education, no experience. I can't even manage my own life. My son David was 18 when he died, Adebayo said softly. He had no experience either. He was still learning, but he had something money can't buy. Character, just like you. Amina shook her head desperately. I can't accept. It's too much. It's impossible. I'm not asking you to decide now, Adebayo said. I'm asking you to give me a chance to show you what I do with this money. What do you mean? Do you want to know the truth about me, Amina? About what I really do with my fortune? She nodded, still stunned. For the past 15 years, I have used my fortune to build 47 free hospitals across Nigeria. I have paid for the medical treatment of over 100,000 needy families. I have built 300 schools in poor communities. I have funded scholarships for 10,000 low-income youths. Amina stared at him in total astonishment. Why? Because when David was a child, he asked me, Daddy, what's the point of so much money if it doesn't help anyone? It was a simple child's question, but it changed my life. Adebayo walked to the window and pointed to the city below. Do you know how many people have been helped by my social work? Over 500,000. And that's just the beginning. I wouldn't know where to start, Amina murmured. You would start exactly where I started, by helping those most in need. You would start by saving your own mother. The mention of her mother made Amina look at him with renewed attention. The surgery your mother needs, Adebayo continued, will be performed by the best cardiologist in the country tomorrow morning at St. Nicholas Hospital. Everything is paid for. Amina felt her legs give way. You can't do that. I already have, he said simply. Dr. Okoro, the best cardiac surgeon in West Africa, is expecting your mother at 7 a.m. Why? She asked, crying uncontrollably. Why are you doing this for me? Because you gave me back my faith in humanity, Adebayo replied, his eyes also moist. Because you proved my son was right. Because there are still people like you in the world. He approached her and placed a hand on her shoulder. Amina, I'm not asking you to inherit my money to become rich. I'm asking you to continue the work that David dreamed of seeing accomplished. To use this fortune to change the lives of millions of people. I don't know if I'm strong enough, she admitted. David was also afraid. Adebayo smiled. The night before he died, he told me, Daddy, I'm afraid I won't be able to be the man you need me to be. I told him he didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to have a good heart. Amina looked into the man's eyes and saw deep pain, but also renewed hope. What happens if I accept? You become my partner. You learn from me how the social work operates, get to know all the projects, and when I die, you continue saving lives with the resources I will leave. And if I can't do it, there is no can't, Adebayo said with conviction. There is only trying every day to do the best you can. That's what David taught me. Amina was silent for a long moment, trying to process everything that was happening. 24 hours ago, she was a desperate waitress with no money to save her mother. Now, she was being invited to inherit 500 billion naira and change the world. Can I think about it? You can, Adebayo confirmed. But while you think, your mother will be undergoing surgery by the best doctor in the country, and you will see with your own eyes what is possible when you have the resources to help. He went to his desk and picked up a card. This is my personal card, my private mobile number. Call me when you decide, or when you want to see the projects we run. Amina took the card with trembling hands. Thank you for everything. For my mother's surgery, for the opportunity, for showing me that there is still kindness in the world. You were the one who showed kindness, Adebayo replied. I just recognized it when I saw it. When Amina left that building, she knew her life would never be the same. Not just because her mother was going to be operated on, but because she had discovered something that changed everything. There were people willing to use money for good, and for some inexplicable reason, one of those people wanted her to continue that work. The question hammering in her head now was no longer whether she could save her mother. The question was, would she be able to save thousands of other mothers? Amina arrived at St. Nicholas Hospital at 5:30 a.m., 2 hours before the scheduled time. She hadn't been able to sleep all night. She sat by her mother's bedside, holding her hand and telling her everything that had happened. Mama listened in silence, tears streaming down her face. My daughter, she said in a weak voice. I always knew your honesty would be rewarded somehow, but I never imagined it would be like this. Mama, you're going to be okay, Amina whispered. The best doctor in the country is going to operate on you. I'm not emotional for myself, Mama smiled. It's for you. God is giving you a chance to help so many people. Don't waste this opportunity. At 6:45 a.m., a medical team arrived to get Mama. Leading them was a man in his 60s with graying hair who radiated competence and confidence. Madame Amina? He asked. I am Dr. Okoro. I came to get your mother personally. Amina almost collapsed. The most famous doctor in Nigeria was here because of her honesty. Doctor, she said, her voice thick with emotion, please take good care of her. You can rest easy, he replied with a fatherly smile. Your mother will leave here good as new. The procedure we are performing is revolutionary. She will have a quality of life she's never had before. When they took Mama to the operating theater, Amina was left alone in the waiting room. That's when she saw Adebayo arriving, carrying a bouquet of white flowers. How are you? He asked, sitting beside her. Nervous, she admitted, but grateful. So grateful. Amina, while your mother is in surgery, can I show you something? What? One of our projects. It's nearby. They left the hospital and walked 3 blocks until they reached another building. But this one was completely different, simple, painted a light blue, with a sign out front. The David Adeleke Institute. Free care. David? Amina asked. In honor of my son, Adebayo confirmed. This was the first project I created after he died. They entered the building, and Amina saw something she would never forget. Dozens of children running through the corridors, laughing, playing all in clean clothes, well-fed and happy. These children are from very poor families, Adebayo explained. Here, they receive medical and psychological support, extra lessons, 3 meals a day, and most importantly, love. A little girl of about 8 ran up to Adebayo and hugged him. Uncle Bayo, she shouted excitedly. You came. Hello, Isabella, he said, lifting the girl into his arms. This is Amina. Isabella, tell Amina what your life was like before you came here. I used to live on the streets with my mummy, Isabella said without sadness, as if telling a simple story. We had no house and no food. Then Uncle Bayo appeared like an angel and brought us here. And now? Adebayo asked. Now I go to school. I play. I eat 3 times a day, and I sleep in a warm bed, she replied, grinning from ear to ear. Amina felt her heart race. An 8-year-old child who had lived on the streets was here happy, educated, with a future. All because of Adebayo's money. How many children do you care for here? She asked. 350, he answered. But we have a waiting list of over 2,000. 2,000 children waiting. This is why I need you, Amina. Alone, I can only help a fraction. With someone who thinks like me, we can multiply this work. They visited the classrooms, where children of all ages were studying diligently, the dining hall, where a nutritious meal was being prepared, and the infirmary, where volunteer doctors provided free medical care. Do you know how much it costs to keep this institute running? Adebayo asked. I have no idea. 1.5 billion naira a year. It sounds like a lot, right? But do you know how many children have passed through here in the last 5 years? How many? 2,400. That's a little over 600,000 naira per child per year. Less than 50,000 a month to completely transform a child's life. The numbers danced in Amina's head. 50,000 naira a month to save a life. She spent more than that on her own personal expenses. And what if we multiply this by 100? Adebayo continued. 100 institutes just like this one. 200,000 children saved simultaneously. It's possible. With 500 billion naira, much more is possible. They returned to the hospital at lunchtime. Mama's surgery had lasted 5 hours, but Dr. Okoro came out of the theater with a smile on his face. Perfect, he said to Amina. Your mother is cured. Her heart is now working better than mine. Amina burst into tears of relief. Months of agony, months of watching her mother fade away, and now it was all over. Mama was saved. Can I see her? She will wake up from the anesthesia in an hour. You'll be able to talk to her normally. When she was finally able to enter the room, Amina found her mother awake, with a healthy color in her face that she hadn't seen in years. How are you feeling, Mama? Like I was born again, Mama replied, her voice strong. It's been so long since I could breathe properly. Adebayo appeared quietly at the door. Mama Amina, he said. May I come in? Of course, my son. Come in. I came to thank your daughter, he said, approaching the bed. She taught me something very important. What is that? That honesty is not just about not stealing. It's about doing the right thing even when no one is watching. It's having character when it doesn't pay to have it. Mama smiled and looked at Amina. I knew you would do the right thing, my daughter. I always knew. Mama Amina, Adebayo said, your daughter is being invited to do something very special, to help thousands of people like yourselves. But I only want her to accept if you agree. I agree without even knowing what it is, Mama replied without hesitation, because I know my daughter only does good. That evening, as they left the hospital, assured that Mama was cured, Adebayo asked a question that would change everything. Amina, do you accept to be my partner in this mission? She looked up at the starry sky and felt as if David were up there, approving of the decision she was about to make. I accept, she said, but on one condition. What is it? I want to visit all the projects before I inherit anything. I want to understand every detail. I want to be sure I can continue the work in the way David would have wanted. Adebayo smiled the most genuine smile she had ever seen. It's a deal. Tomorrow, we begin our tour of the 47 hospitals. 3 weeks had passed since Amina accepted Adebayo's proposal. They were the most intense days of her life. They visited 12 hospitals, 23 schools, 8 orphanages, and 15 rehabilitation centers. With each place she saw, Amina became more impressed by the scale of the work Adebayo had been quietly carrying on for years. I never imagined there were so many people needing help, she said one Monday morning, as they visited a shelter for homeless people. And I never imagined it was possible to help so many people at once, Adebayo replied. But when you have resources and determination, miracles happen every day. That afternoon, they were in the office reviewing financial reports for the projects when Mrs. Obi knocked on the door. Chief, excuse the interruption, but there is an urgent situation. What happened? Straight. Jude's hospital is in trouble. They need 2 billion naira urgently, or they will have to close down. Adebayo stood up immediately. Close? But they serve 2,000 needy children a month. I know, sir. That's why I came running to tell you. Amina saw the desperation on Adebayo's face. In 3 weeks of being with him, she had learned that every life he couldn't save was a wound to his soul. Let's go there now, he said, grabbing his car keys. Santi. Jude's hospital was on the outskirts of the city. When they arrived, they found a crowd of desperate parents at the gate, holding sick children in their arms, not understanding why the hospital was closing. Please, a woman shouted at the security guards. My daughter has a high fever. She needs a doctor. Madam, I understand your situation, the guard replied, embarrassed. But we no longer have the resources to operate. We had to let the medical staff go this morning. Adebayo approached the group. I am Adebayo Adeleke. May I speak with the hospital director? Doctor Monteiro. One of the mothers cried out. Olga, will you save our children? Before he could answer, other voices joined in. Please, doctor. My son has a heart problem. My baby was born premature. Only here has the treatment she needs. Olga, without this hospital, our children will die. Amina saw tears in Adebayo's eyes. These families knew him. They knew he saved lives. The hospital director, Dr. Paul Silveira, appeared at the entrance, his face a mask of defeat. Adebayo, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for coming, but this time, there's nothing to be done. The debt is too large. 2 billion. I can't keep the doors open any longer. Paul, you know I can cover that amount, Adebayo replied. I know, but I can't accept your help anymore. You have funded this hospital for 5 years. You've already spent over 50 billion here. It's not fair to ask for more. What is fair is for these children to have medical care. Adebayo, you can't carry the world on your shoulders alone. Amina watched the discussion in silence. She saw Adebayo's frustration, the family's desperation. She saw a good man trying to save everyone and feeling inadequate. Doctor, Paul, she interjected. May I ask a question? Of course. If you had the 2 billion today, could you reopen the hospital tomorrow? We could. The entire medical team is willing to come back. The problem is purely financial. Amina looked at Adebayo. Sir, can I speak with you in private? They moved away from the group. Chief, I want to make the transfer of the 2 billion. Amina, you haven't officially inherited anything yet. Everything is still in my name. Then transfer it to my name now. I want to save these children. Adebayo looked at her, surprised. Are you sure? 2 billion is no joke. I am absolutely sure. If I'm going to inherit 500 billion, I can start by spending 2 billion to save lives. But Amina, there's a detail you don't know, Adebayo said, his voice becoming strange. An important detail. What detail? This hospital. It doesn't exist. Amina felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. What do you mean? It doesn't exist? The people you saw out there are hired actors. Doctor, Paul is a personal friend of mine. This whole scene was staged. The world spun around Amina. You're testing me again? I am, Adebayo confirmed, but he didn't look happy about it. Amina, I needed to be sure you wouldn't change once you had access to the money. I needed to see if you would remain the same honest and generous person. And if I had failed the test, then I would have known that the money had corrupted you, that you were not the right person to continue David's legacy. Amina leaned against the wall, trying to process it all. How many more tests will there be? This was the last one, Adebayo said, and you passed with flying colors. Without hesitation, you were willing to use 2 billion to save children you don't even know. So, it was all a lie? Not all of it. My pain over losing David is real. My desire to help people is real. The 47 hospitals we visited are real. The David Institute is real. Your mother's surgery was real. And now I will tell you the complete truth about my situation, Adebayo said, his voice growing serious. Amina, I don't have much time left. Her heart stopped. What do you mean? I have a terminal condition. The doctors have given me 6 months at most. Amina felt tears stream down her face. In 3 weeks, she had grown to care for this man as if he were a father. That's why I was in such a hurry to find someone to continue my work, he continued. That's why all the tests. Because when I am gone, I need to be sure that David's legacy will continue. Adebayo, you passed all the tests, Amina. You returned a 20 billion naira watch. You maintained your honesty, even after being humiliated. And now you were willing to spend 2 billion to save unknown children. You are exactly the person I needed to find. I don't want you to die, she said, crying. I don't want to either, but at least now I know that my life's work will not die with me. Adebayo took an envelope from the briefcase he was carrying and handed it to her. What is this? The documents transferring all my assets to you. 500 billion naira. 50 companies. All the social projects. All legal, registered at court. Amina looked at the envelope, unable to open it. From now on, you are officially my sole heir, Adebayo said. And do you know the best part? What? David would be proud of you. I am absolutely certain of it. 2 weeks after officially receiving the inheritance, Amina was in the office reviewing hospital reports when her phone rang. It was 3 a.m. A call at that hour could only mean an emergency. Amina? Misus. Obi's voice was desperate on the other end. You need to come to Echo Hospital now. Chief Adebayo collapsed. It's very serious. Her world fell apart. Amina dropped everything and rushed to the hospital. During the taxi ride, her hands shook uncontrollably. Adebayo had said he had 6 months, but she hadn't expected the end to come so soon. When she arrived at the hospital, She found Mrs. Obi crying in the waiting room. What happened? Amina asked, out of breath. He fainted during a meeting with investors. The doctors said his condition has worsened significantly in the last few weeks. Can I see him? You can, but he's very weak. He can barely speak. Amina entered the room and saw Adebayo connected to several machines. The strong, determined man she had met a month ago now looked as fragile as a child. When he saw her, he tried to smile. Amina, he whispered with difficulty. I'm glad you came. Adebayo, you're going to be okay, she said, holding his hand. I'm not, he replied with brutal honesty. And that's why I need to tell you something very important before it's too late. What is it? It's about David. There's something I never told you. Amina moved closer to hear better. David didn't die in a car accident, Adebayo said, each word costing him enormous effort. He committed suicide. The shock was like a punch to Amina's stomach. What? My son had been depressed for months. I didn't notice because I was always too busy with business. He tried to talk to me several times. But I always had a meeting, always had a trip, always had something more important. Tears streamed down Adebayo's face. The night before he died, David came to my office. He said he needed to talk to me urgently. I told him to wait, that I was closing a $100 million deal. 100 million, Amina. I chose 100 million over my own son. He left the office, and I didn't even look up from my computer. The next morning, they found his body. He had left a letter saying he felt invisible, that his father loved money more than him. Amina was crying now, too. The man's pain was so deep it was contagious. That's why I created all the social projects, Adebayo continued, to try to make up for it, to try to save other sons, since I couldn't save my own. And that's why you were looking for someone to continue the work. Exactly. Because alone, no matter how much I did, it would never be enough to erase what I did to David. Adebayo paused to catch his breath. Amina, there is one last project I never showed you. The most important one of all. Which one? A suicide prevention center for young people. It has saved over 3,000 teenagers in the last 2 years. Why did you never show me? Because it was too painful. Every life we saved there reminded me of the life I couldn't save at home. Amina squeezed his hand tighter. Adebayo, you have saved hundreds of thousands of people. You can't blame yourself forever for David's death. I can, he replied, and I will blame myself until the last day of my life, which it seems is coming faster than I would like. Just then, the doctor entered the room with a worried look. Madame, he said to Amina, I need to speak with you. Can we talk outside? They left the room. Madame Amina, his condition has worsened significantly. The disease is advancing faster than we predicted. Based on the tests, he has 2 weeks at most. 2 weeks? She repeated in disbelief. Perhaps less. I recommend you settle whatever needs to be settled urgently. Amina returned to the room with a broken heart. Adebayo was sleeping but woke up as she approached. The doctor told you? He did. 2 weeks, he said with a sad smile. At least that's enough time to teach you the final details of the projects. Adebayo, I don't know if I can do this alone. You will. Do you know why? Why? Because you have something I never had. You see, people, I only saw numbers, money, deals. You see hearts. The next day, against doctor's orders, Adebayo insisted on leaving the hospital to show Amina the Suicide Prevention Center. The Gabriel Center, she read on the sign at the entrance. It runs 24/7, he explained, visibly struggling to stand. We have psychologists, psychiatrists, support groups, and most importantly, people who understand the pain of wanting to give up on life. They entered the building, and Amina saw something extraordinary. Dozens of young people talking with professionals, participating in activities, laughing, helping each other. How many teenagers do you help? 500 a month, and we have a waiting list of over 2,000. A young woman of about 17 approached them. Chief Adebayo, she said cheerfully. How are you, sir? Hello, Amanda. This is Amina. Amanda came here a year ago wanting to give up on everything. Today, she is our most dedicated volunteer. It's true, Amanda confirmed, looking at Amina. I was going to do something very stupid, but the people here showed me that life is worth living, even when it doesn't feel like it. Adebayo smiled with pride. Amanda has already helped save over 50 young people who came here as desperate as she was. How do you do it? Amina asked. Simple, Amanda replied. We listen. Really listen. Without judgment. Without lectures, without rushing, we just listen. Sometimes, that's all a person needs to not give up. Someone to listen. When they left the center, Adebayo was exhausted but seemed at peace. Amina, if I die tomorrow, At least I know this place will continue saving young people like David. You're not going to die tomorrow, she protested. I might. That's why I need to ask you for something very important. Anything. When I'm gone, I want you to do something I never could. What is it? I want you to forgive David. Amina didn't understand. Forgive David for what? For giving up. For not waiting for his father to become a better person. For taking his own life. Adebayo, I have never been able to forgive my son for abandoning me, he confessed, tears streaming down his face. And I know that's selfish. I know he was suffering. I know it was my fault. But deep down, a part of me has always been angry with him for giving up. It's normal to feel that. It's not normal for a father. A father should only have love, not anger. But I do feel anger, and it has been eating me up inside for 2 years. Adebayo stopped walking and looked at her. Amina, when I die and meet David on the other side, I want to be able to apologize to him without carrying this anger in my heart. I want to be able to hug my son without resentment. What do you want me to do? I want you to continue the work of the prevention center. I want you to save every David you can. And with every life saved, I want you to say, this one is for the David we couldn't save, but who inspired us to save so many others. I promise, Amina said, crying. And one more thing. Tell me. I want you to go to his grave with me tomorrow. I want to say goodbye to my son properly before I go to meet him. That night at the hospital, Adebayo had a respiratory crisis. The doctors managed to stabilize him but warned that it was a matter of days, perhaps hours. Amina, he called her in the middle of the night. It's time. Time for what? For you to officially take over everything. Tomorrow morning, all the project directors will be here. You will be introduced as the new leader of everything. I'm not ready. No one is ever ready to save the world. Adebayo smiled. But some people do it anyway. He picked up a photo from his bedside table and showed it to her. It was David, smiling, wearing the 20 billion naira watch. He would be proud of you, Adebayo said. I am absolutely certain of it. The next morning was grey and heavy, as if the sky itself knew an extraordinary man was departing. Amina hadn't slept. She had spent the entire night holding Adebayo's hand, watching his breathing grow weaker and more difficult. At 6 a.m., he opened his eyes one last time and looked at her with the smile she had come to love like a father's. Amina, he whispered, it's time to go visit David. Adebayo, you're in no condition to leave this bed. Yes, I am. This is the last thing I need to do in this life, and you are going to help me. Against all medical advice, they left the hospital in a wheelchair. The cemetery was 20 minutes away. During the drive, Adebayo held her hand tightly, as if she were an anchor keeping him from leaving before his time. David's grave was simple. Just a white marble headstone with a photo of the smiling boy. David Adeleke, an angel who went home too soon, it read. Adebayo asked Amina to push the wheelchair right up to the grave. He sat there in silence for long minutes, just looking at his son's photo. Hello, my son, he finally said, his voice choked with emotion. I brought someone very special for you to meet. This is Amina. She is the one who will continue to help everyone we couldn't help. Amina felt tears stream down her face. Watching this strong man say goodbye to his son was the most painful thing she had ever witnessed. David, Adebayo continued, I came here to ask for your forgiveness, my son. Forgive me for not listening when you needed me most. Forgive me for choosing work over you. Forgive me for not realizing you were suffering. His voice broke, but he went on. And I came to tell you that I finally understand what you tried to teach me. That money is only good for one thing. Helping people. And this Amina here will do that better than I ever did. Adebayo turned to Amina. Now, it's your turn. Talk to him. Amina knelt by the grave, still not believing she was doing this. Hi, David, she said softly. I never met you, but I feel like you're my brother. Your father told me so much about you. I want you to know that I will take care of all the work you two started. I will save every child I can. I will help every young person who is as desperate as you were. And I will do it, thinking of you, every single day. When they left the cemetery, Adebayo was at peace for the first time in 2 years. Thank you, he said to Amina. Now I can go in peace. They returned to the hospital, where a crowd was waiting for them. All the project directors, doctors from the hospitals, teachers from the schools, psychologists from the prevention center, over 200 people who worked on Adebayo's projects, were there to officially meet the person who would continue the work. Everyone, Adebayo said from his bed, with the little voice he had left. This is Amina Santos. From today, she is officially in charge of all our projects. A murmur ran through the crowd. Amina saw suspicious, curious, and worried faces. How could a 25-year-old waitress take over a 500 billion naira empire dedicated to social causes? I know you are worried, Amina said, standing up. I know you think I don't have enough experience, and you are right. I don't. The murmur grew louder. But do you know what I do have? She continued, her voice gaining strength. I have the same thing David had, a heart that aches when it sees suffering. A heart that cannot stay still when it can help someone. The crowd began to pay closer attention. A month ago, I was just a waitress who didn't have money to save her own mother. Today, I am responsible for saving thousands of mothers, fathers, and children. And do you know why this happened? It wasn't a miracle. It was because of a choice. Amina looked at Adebayo, who was smiling proudly. When I found a 20 billion naira watch left on a table, I could have kept it and solved all my problems. But I chose to return it. Not because I'm a saint, not because I'm better than anyone, but because my mother taught me that a good name is more important than money. And it was that choice, she continued, that brought me here. That gave me the chance to meet Adebayo, to hear about David, to understand that there are people using money to do good in the world. Doctor, Amanda from the Prevention Center raised her hand. Amina, how do you plan to run all these projects with no administrative experience? I won't run them alone, Amina replied. I will count on you, on every one of you who already work saving lives every day. I don't need to know administration. I need to know how to listen to you and give you the support you need to save even more people. Dr. Okoro, the cardiologist who had operated on her mother, asked another question. And what about new projects? Do you plan to expand? Amina looked at the crowd. I'm going to tell you something. Last week, I visited the David Center. I saw a 17-year-old girl who had tried to take her own life but was saved by you. Today, she helps save other young people. She paused. Do you know how many young people she has helped? 50. One person saved by you has already saved 50 others. That is multiplication. That is a true legacy. So, she continued, my plan is simple. We are going to multiply everything by 10. 10 times more hospitals, 10 times more schools, 10 times more prevention centers, 10 times more lives saved. The crowd was silent, impressed by the scale of the proposal. How? Someone asked. By using the same formula that Adebayo and David discovered. When you save one life, that person will save others. When you teach one child, they will teach others. When you give someone hope, that person will give hope to someone else. Adebayo tried to clap from his bed but no longer had the strength. He just smiled and murmured, perfect. And do you know what the new foundation will be called? Amina announced, the David Foundation, so that no young person ever gives up on life. This time, the crowd erupted in applause. They all understood that they were not just getting a new leader. They were getting someone who would honor David's memory in the most beautiful way possible. That night, Adebayo called Amina for a private talk. Amina, I need to give you one last thing. What is it? He took a small box from his bedside table and handed it to her. Inside was the 20 billion naira watch. This watch will be the symbol of our foundation, he said. Every time someone asks how it all began, you tell them the story of a waitress who chose to do the right thing. And every time you feel lost, look at this watch and remember, you passed the hardest test in the world. The test of choosing right when wrong would have been easier. Adebayo closed his eyes, tired but at peace. Amina, do you know the difference between being rich and being prosperous? No. A rich person has money. A prosperous person uses money to do good. You won't just be rich, you will be prosperous. In the early hours of the morning, Adebayo Adeleke passed away in his sleep, with a smile on his face. He died knowing his son's legacy was in good hands. 2 years later, Amina stood in the same cemetery, but now with a crowd surrounding David's grave. It was the anniversary of the boy's death, and it had become a tradition to gather there all those who had been saved by the Foundation's projects. David, she said, speaking to the hundreds of people who were alive because of the work that young man had started. Today marks 2 years without you physically here, but 2 years of feeling your presence in every life we save. She looked at the people around her, children who had been operated on in the Foundation's hospitals, teenagers who had been stopped from giving up on life, teachers who taught in schools built with David's legacy, entire families who were there, because an 18-year-old boy had taught his father that money was meant to help people. In 2 years, Amina continued, we have saved the lives of over 1 million people. We have built 150 new hospitals, opened 500 schools, and established 100 suicide prevention centers. The crowd listened in reverent silence. But do you know the most important number? 1,347. That is the number of young people who were on the verge of giving up on life and changed their minds after coming to our centers. Tears streamed down everyone's faces. 1,347 Davids that we saved because we couldn't save you. 1,347 families that did not go through the pain your father went through. Amina held up the 20 billion naira watch, which she now wore every day. David, your father once told me that character is more important than money. Today I say, character is money. When you have character, the universe conspires to put resources in your hands. And when you use those resources to do good, you become immortal. She looked up at the sky. You are immortal, David. Every life we save carries a piece of you. Every smile we return to a sick child is your smile. Every tear of gratitude from a mother who saw her child saved is you saying it was all worth it. And Amina finished her speech with the phrase that had become the motto of the David Foundation: death is not the end when love continues to save lives. And on that day, more than 10 million people watched the video of her speech. They shared the story of the waitress who returned a 20 billion naira watch and changed the world. They commented, they cried, they were inspired. Because sometimes, a single choice can transform not just one life, but millions of lives. And it all began with a humble waitress who chose to do the right thing when no one was watching.